Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine, and I have a chemistry demonstration to share with you today. We're using this book called Chemistry the Waldorf Way for grades 7 and 8, and we're working through our combustion lessons for our Waldorf chemistry main lesson block. Today we're going to be working on a couple of demonstrations, botany of a flame and also combustions of plant, animal, and mineral substances. We're starting with some dried blossoms. We are doing this outside for ventilation purposes, but it is a windy day and we are struggling to keep our flame lit, especially since I'm using a match. We're going to do this during the day when it is quite windy, but we're going to do it again in the evening when it's a little bit less windy, and I am going to use a lighter instead. But we're going through every part of the plant, from the root to the stems, the leaves, and the blossoms. The first time we did this demonstration, we didn't use dried material. Some of the material was dry, but a lot of it was still fresh, and that made the combustion process very difficult. This time we are using dried materials, and we are observing the difference in the heat production, in how brightly it burns and how easily it burns. Next, we're burning wax. Now, I've always had trouble getting the wax to actually combust. We're probably doing it incorrectly, so we're going to move on. We have some roots, seeds, blossoms, and all of these are dried out. I am now using a lighter, and it is a little bit easier. It is later in the day. It is less windy. Now we're moving on to pine needles, and I know that these burn brightly. They ignite easily, but there's also a lot of smoke as well. For all of the leaves that we burned, we also noticed there was quite a lot of smoke production. Here are a variety of really dried leaves. A lot of these things we got from our backyard, and if they weren't dried in time, we put them in the oven on a very low temperature and allowed a lot of the moisture to dry out so we could get a good demonstration. It is a lot easier working outside. It is a time of year when it's safe to work outside. When we first did these combustion demonstrations, it was during fire season and it wasn't safe to be doing this outside. So we did it inside, and even though it was well ventilated, it was still too smoky. Finally, we just had to end our demonstration, but you can still see that original video. It is linked in the description box below. Finally, we're doing a few more blossoms. These were just a variety of blossoms as well as anything that was left over on our tray. You can see that there's plenty of smoke when we're doing this. We're going to try wax again, and this time with our lighter, and we still can't get it to burn the way that I think the demonstration is expecting us to be able to have wax combust. But after we give this a try, we are going to move on to some of our other materials. We have some wool next, and this is sheep's wool, and you can see that it melts and it gives off a very strong odor similar to burning hair. So we observed a very different reaction in burning wool. So this is our animal product that we're burning, and it's just basically melting just to a very tight ball in the end. Steel wool is next. I love the combustion of steel wool. It just looks like sparklers or like fireworks. It's really beautiful. It's a very unique combustion, and I really love this one a lot. I love doing it whenever possible. Now that the demonstration is over, it is time to get out our main lesson books and write up what we observed and what we understand from this lesson. We have done this lesson a couple of times over several days, and by the time we're ready to write down our lesson, it's been a few days where we can process the information, recall the information, review what we're watching and what we observed, and then understand the chemistry and the science behind what we're observing. This is part of a greater lesson in talking about refined and unrefined fuels. When we first did this lesson, it was part of our combustion exercise, but when we did this the second time, we included refined fuels as well, which is in a different video. You can find that link in the description box below. So in observing refined and unrefined fuels, we saw a couple of things. One is that when we are burning materials that are renewable resources like botanicals and wood and things like that, we found that there was a lot more smoke, and the results are soot and ash. So it doesn't burn as cleanly as refined fuels. And our refined fuels that we use for the purpose of being able to do this in a home lab was acetone and alcohol. Here's a final look at the lesson with the write-up. We opted not to do an illustration for this lesson, but we did include a table at the bottom of this write-up that goes through each one of the materials that we burned and an explanation of how cleanly it burned and the observations we observed during the demonstration. I hope that you enjoyed this look at our chemistry demonstration. Don't forget to check out the blog post that accompanies this video for more information, as well as links to both the resources as well as other tutorials in this main lesson block. You can find the link to that blog post in the description box below. And if you'd like to see how we're homeschooling on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram and now on TikTok at Pepper and Pine.